Envoy. Glad to see you're still with us. How can I help you? Inquisitor Lodwyn is the commander of the Steel Garrote in Paradis. Were you to ask her, she'd say she keeps the peace. But she doesn't keep it so much as prosecute it, as ruthlessly as the ambassador will let her. She's also a veteran of the Steel Garrote's campaign in the Deathfire, where she died.
She's a Death Guard. Well, that explains a lot.
I don't know what happened to her there, but I suppose Boudica wasn't done with her yet. Has she ever mentioned you? Except, no. Wait. The morning after the ambassador received word you'd been dispatched, I heard the Inquisitor tell her captain that an old friend would visit soon. That couldn't have been you, could it?
The envoy here has depths you would not believe.
We are living in the strangest of all possible times. Think upon your promises and die. That's the litany of the Steel Garrote, usually said right before they kill you. They're an order of paladins born and bred in Aedyran, though clearly they've found plenty of work beyond our borders. Their remit is simple but comprehensive. They punish all who break their oaths. In practice, that has historically meant contracts. One lord or merchant will hire the Steel Garrote to bring a duplicitous rival to justice.
Fun bunch. What are they doing in Paradis?
Since the events in the Deathfire, their operations have expanded. The Steel Garrote has always been associated with Boudica. Now, they are explicitly her order. And they go wherever Boudica's priests, or Boudica herself, believes there is a need for them to go. The Living Lands are a dangerous, lawless frontier in sore need of order. Thus, they are here. Or so the Steel Garrote say. Do you think so? I've always found her inflexibility comforting. Boudica's edicts are clear. If you obey her laws, pursue justice, punish the guilty, and give fealty to the Emperor, then you have pleased her, and I aim to please. But Boudica does not trust. She demands that you declare yourself for her again and again. Her every request is a test, and her every test is an opportunity to disappoint her. I appreciate a god who makes you work for their grace. I don't want anything given to me for free. Of course. What would you like to know? Depends on who you ask. Ambassador Heelgard will tell you that our remit here is to establish a secure and orderly environment from which to engage in trade. Inquisitor Lodwyn will tell you we're here to break the frontier.
So, which is it?
Why not both? That's where you come in. Whether you find your desires aligning with the ambassadors or the inquisitors, neither can succeed until the Dream Scourge is ended. We are only beginning to see its effects here in Domshore, but the closer to the center of the island you go, the worse it gets. That bear you and the ambassador encountered in the Strangle Route isn't even the worst of it, and the tide of this soul plague is rising higher every day. If you're looking for a particular year, the first thing you should know about Paradis is that this isn't the kind of place where the locals keep records. And though it might be considered a distant backwater by the rest of the world, this city is the height of civilization by the standards of the Living Lands. As for who calls this place home, I suspect you could find a criminal, confidence man, or prophet from every civilization in the world here.
Hey, come on. You're gonna give the envoy the wrong idea. We've got draft dodgers, courtesans, and revolutionaries, too. You know, all the fun people.
In any event, as far as I can tell, Paradis has been this way since its inception. Thus the eclectic display of architectural styles. If nothing else, this city is a reflection of the countless people who have passed through it on their way to the interior. The Resistance, as such, are largely a group of misfits and criminals intent on undermining the rule of law. They take out loans with small Aedyran banking houses and do not pay them, then assault the bankers who attempt to collect. They agree to contracts with families in Aedyr seeking homes, and when their ships arrive, promptly abandon them. When we levy a small tax to fund the repair of city roads, they set our counting house on fire. And when our fishermen return to port, they board their ships and sink them.
That's certainly one way to characterize them. It's not exactly wrong, but it's not exactly right either.
For decades, people like them ruled this city through fear. We imposed order, and now they oppose us. You, unfortunately, were caught in the crossfire. Look, for all that I complain about this backwater, there are good people here. Same as anywhere else. People who want to be able to walk to the market in the morning for their bread and eggs and know they won't be mugged. People who like it when the mail comes on time, and their skates are made from real copper, and their neighborhood peeping Tom ends up in the stocks. Those people, good and honest people, who pay their debts and honor their contracts and remember to thank the gods, they like us a lot. By all means. Inquisitor Lodwyn is the commander of the Steel Garrote in Paradis, but she doesn't keep it so much as prosecute. She's also a veteran of the Steel...
She's a death guard.
Safe travels, Envoy. Envoy, how can I... I trust whomever told you to consult a watcher also told you to avoid the one in the city. She is a liar and a thief.
Oh, did you take your money?
No. Anyway, watchers are individuals capable of perceiving souls. The soul may be in a living body, or it may simply be lingering, waiting to pass into the in-between. In either case, interacting with a soul allows a watcher to glimpse a person's past lives or their most deeply buried memories. Watchers are incredibly rare, and in Aedyr, highly controlled. Many people wish to know who they were in a previous life, and do not like what they learn. The smart ones stay hidden. They do not announce their powers, perhaps not even to themselves. Even a careful watcher risks inadvertently revealing themselves by knowing something they shouldn't know. Of the ones that are public, little is concretely known. But we hear things. They make good judges in Wodika's courts, so long as they're controlled. The lords, it's rumored, buy and sell them to collect blackmail on their enemies. But I suspect many watchers are imprisoned or executed, or simply kill themselves. Well, the Watcher of Cadnua is legendary. It was their castle Aethys destroyed when he began his campaign of terror in the Dead Fire. Oh, by the Queen, I hope I get to meet them someday. In terms of local interest, you'll have heard of Runid, of course. And there was Ida. You may not know about her. She was a watcher from the Living Lands. I believe she was an Orlan. She must have died, 150 years ago. Slain by a great serpent, gods treat kindly with her soul. Doubtless there are others, but most don't meet a good end. A watcher doesn't need your cooperation or consent to read your soul. They could learn everything about you, terribly damaging things about your parentage, for example, or things you did in a past life, without you ever knowing. You see how this could threaten the established order, undermine our betters' right to rule.
Yeah, but that's just one side to it. Imagine how a Watcher feels, knowing what a threat they are to the status quo. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be keen on kings and emperors wanting me dead. Sounds like a lot of hassle.
Don't sell yourself short, Kai. I don't doubt you're an expert in people wanting you dead.
You're not wrong.
I rarely am, in any case. The Watcher is fundamentally a tragic figure. Of the few that survive our world, most are destined to go mad. Yes and no. So far as I understand it, a Watcher is born a Watcher. But it takes an event, often something shocking or traumatic, to bring a Watcher's powers to the fore. So you may be a Watcher, or I may be, or Kai, and we might not even know. I'm an open book. There's a lot of ground to cover. Could you be more specific? There is no singular authority in the living lands.
Not yet, anyway.
I shudder to think what the living lands would look like under your rule.
Well, to start, there'd be a lot more brothels.
Charming. Power is invested in the leaders of the various townships scattered across the island. The largest are Fjord, Thirdborn, and Solace. None of which, I will note, are as safe and orderly as Paradis. Fjord Messeverno is located in a valley known locally as the Emerald Stair, named for the terraced rice paddies that cover its hillsides. It is our closest neighbor. The city, if you can call it that, was founded 50 years ago by animancers from the Valian Republics. Apparently, the laws governing animancy weren't lenient enough in the Republics. So the city's founders came to the Living Lands, where they could practice their discipline more freely. Currently, Fjord is governed by a man named Ignacy Vidaro. Rather inept to hear the ambassador talk about him. Fjord's farmers supply most of the grain and vegetables we eat here in Paradis. Or it did. Their shipments have been infrequent lately. Something about a blight in the fields. In any event, I believe that covers Fjord. Everything you need to know about Thirdborn is in its name. It was founded by the third-born children of Rawatai, Navy dropouts, smugglers, and hands for hire. Almawa and Orleans, mostly.
Home, sweet home.
You're free to go back any time you like.
I like my current circumstances just fine, thanks.
They are a people, in short, who couldn't cut it in the civilized world, and had to make room on the margins. Unfortunately, they are currently besieged by the Dream Scourge. We have sent some troops to lend what help we can, and the mayor, Temerity, was appropriately grateful, but I don't know how long they'll hold out. Rawatai is one of the old empires, every bit as storied as Grand Valia or our native Aedyr. If Aedyr is to the southwest of the Living Lands, Rawatai is to the southeast. And unlike our home, their small continent is racked by terrible storms. This is due, or rather was due, to the island's proximity to Andra's mortar, the unending super hurricane that once hid the ancient city of Ukaizo. Rawatai is largely peopled by Almawa, descended from those who fled the Deadfire Archipelago centuries ago, when Andra pulled the moon, Ioni Brather, into the sea. They are an aggressive, militant culture, and personally I find their obsession with gunpowder rather quaint. They are also our chief rivals on the world stage.
I don't think they see it that way.
No?
Well, as far as Navy brass is concerned, Aedyr doesn't really rate.
Now you're just making things up.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we don't think about you at all.
The Valian republics are a collection of city-states in the Eastern Reach, southeast of our former colony, the Deerwood. The republics began life as colonies of the Grand Empire of Valia, hence the name. But as Grand Valia's economy collapsed, well, the colonies saw an opportunity to escape the influence of the Empire of Origin, and they seceded, much as the Deerwood did from Aedyran. Now a mature confederation in their own right, the republics have recently indulged their own expansionist ambitions in the Deadfire Archipelago. Through their merchants in the Valian Trading Company, the republics will sell you anything you could ever wish to buy.
Up to and including people.
We should count ourselves lucky to have had no interest in the living lands. In a struggle between our emperor and the republic's great dukes, well, I doubt we would come out on top. But if anyone asks, I was not the one who told you that. Solace is, What is there to say, really?
Yeah, they tend to have that effect on people.
The trouble is, I don't know much about Solace. Nobody does. They are an isolationist community of Pargrunan dwarves who live in the forbidding ways of Galawain's tusks. They don't let outsiders into their lands, and they don't let their people out of them.
Some folks get out from time to time, but they can't ever go back. And the ones who survive aren't eager to talk about their experiences.
People aside, the land itself is incredibly hostile. The island's volcano, Mount Forja, rests at the heart of the region, and it's recently become active. Half the land is lava rock, and the other half is, well, literally lava. I don't know why anyone lives there. I have to assume they're all insane.
You have no idea.
Naturally. The Pargrunan are a unique community of mountain dwarves originating in Old Valia. As a people, they've made their name as explorers, builders, miners. No doubt you've seen their ruins in your travels, here, back home in Aedyran, and all across the world. They maintain a rich tradition of oral storytelling, chanted magics, and ritual carving, which they take great pains to record and transmit across their various communities. Even the most physically isolated Pargrun is not alone. Somewhere, one of their people is thinking of them and planning an expedition. Aedyran must cherish them.
You sound like you admire them.
I suppose I do. By all means. Well, you'll notice I'm nearly always here. If that man sleeps, I don't know about it. He wouldn't say, but I believe he relied on the Claviger far more than he lets on. And without the Claviger's steady hand at the rudder, the ambassador's struggling just to bail water from the sinking ship that is Paradis.
Claviger Aemon might have tolerated a little more chaos than the ambassador liked, but he kept this place humming. He's not someone you can easily replace, and not with one man alone.
It's a difficult job. The pressure sometimes gets the better of him. But if he loses his temper now and then, I can't blame him for it. Better him than me. He doesn't know what to do with himself. You know, in our first days here, he'd often walk to the end of the docks at sunrise. The work was done, the embassy was closed, and he'd still be wearing the same clothes he'd slept in at his desk. And he'd just stare out over the sea. He always seemed dissatisfied back then. I suppose, years later, he still does. Be serious. Most of us here didn't get sent to the frontier because we were anybody's favorite. The longer I'm here, the more likely the people who matter are to forget me. And I'd actually like to get back to High Crown someday. Get married, have a few kids, take the civil exams, and settle into a permanent clerkship.
I guess there are worse ways to spend a life.
Like rotting in this embassy. I'm an open book. Inquisitor Lodwyn, but she's... Of course. Safe travels, envoy.